Welcome back. Institutions of higher learning have long been a battleground for ideas, protests, and catalysts for social change. Recently, Columbia University students faced harsh consequences for participating in pro-Palestine demonstrations on campus. The sanctions include expulsions, suspension, and the institution revoking degrees. For a look at the impact on students, we are now joined by Yunus Ballim.
To answer your question, I think one of the important issues that came across when we heard this news is that it struck us as a remarkable decision, particularly the decision to withdraw students' qualifications. The newspaper reports are a little bit ambiguous because it seems as though the decision is a temporary withdrawal, but even that is a remarkable decision. A degree is a social acknowledgement of a set of learning outcomes. And a degree is granted to a student who has satisfied those learning outcomes. And the social acknowledgement arrives from the fact that the university is a custodian of the standards and the quality. A degree cannot be withdrawn on such spurious grounds. The grounds for withdrawal of a degree is the student obtained the degree improperly, was admitted to the university improperly, etc. Those are the sorts of things. But on these grounds, on the basis of a student's political views, etc., or even crimes that the student would have committed, is not a basis for withdrawal of a degree. A good example is when a graduate who enters a professional discipline, engineering, teaching, medicine, law, misbehaves in some way or the other, so much so that they actually end up in prison. The professional body has the right to withdraw their right to practice in that profession, but no one has the right to withdraw their degree. And in fact, the university does not withdraw the degree. And that's because universities grant qualifications on the basis of learning outcomes. Universities are not expected to get students to respond to the big questions that all human beings must respond to. Who am I? How should I live? What choices should I make? A higher education qualification does not answer those questions and is not meant to answer those questions. What we do as universities is give students a context in which they are meant to seek the answers for themselves. Ours is not to captivate our students. Ours is to educate our students. And a good university that does that is serving the needs of its society. When a university chooses to tell students that there's some opinions that they should not hold, or that there is only one way of knowing the world, such a university finds itself in a position where it is obliged to undereducate its students. And I must say, I'm quite convinced that if these students chose to challenge the decision to withdraw their qualifications, whether it is temporary or permanent, I think a reasonable court of law would find that such a practice would be unjust. The issue of expelling or rusticating students for protest action is a separate matter. Here, unless the students were found to be willfully damaging property, threats to life and limb of fellow students or staff, the right to protest is inherent in what it means to live in a democratic society. And protest, by its very nature, must be disruptive. We don't go to a forest to protest. We ask fellow citizens to sit up and notice us because we disrupt their lives. There must be some sort of disruption that draws attention to the cause of those who wish to protest. You may agree or disagree, but at least the point is that democratic societies allow people to express their opinions when they disagree with whatever norm is going by. But more importantly, in a place that calls itself a university, this is central to the heart of what it means to live, work, and learn at a place called a university. It's the idea of disruption, changing ideas, shifting concepts. The revolutionaries that we bow down to throughout the world all did this. Abraham, Moses, Jesus, Muhammad, Nelson Mandela, Gandhi. This is what they did. They made people sit up and think differently about the world in which they find themselves. So I must say I found it disturbing that a university would do this. It's also unfortunate that it happens at a time when government has announced withdrawal of funding from the university, from Columbia, specifically for the protest action of their students. Perhaps it's coincidence, but it is difficult to avoid the conclusion that the university is responding to the threat of withdrawal of funding.
Yeah,
The university must always be more than its money.
Yeah.
Apologies.
And thanks for that clarity as well, because as an emeritus professor, you obviously have a wealth of experience, many years that you've dedicated there. So in your experience, I know you're saying that it's not done to revoke a degree. In your experience, have you ever heard of any institution around the world attempting such a thing?
As I say, we occasionally do revoke degrees, but that would be for malfeasance on the part of the student. The student did something that was unacceptable in the way the student obtained the qualification. But I have never heard of a degree being withdrawn for a moral or political judgment on the behavior of the student. That can't be. Certainly not in the world that I'm used to, which is the world of the openness of ideas. And remember, for those of us who've lived through the history of apartheid, the possibility of thinking freely is a really special gift. And I don't think people sometimes forget what a special gift it is to be able to think and speak freely in your society. And that's what we call academic freedom. It's in our country, it's written in our constitution. I'm sure that in the United States, principles of academic freedom are firmly upheld. And those academic leaders, university leaders that I've spoken to, speak well on the principle of academic freedom. By the way, I think it was Senator Fulbright addressing Congress during the Vietnam War years, spoke very eloquently on this matter of why students are protesting. Very often, and his point was that students come to university and find that the institutional leaders are standing for values that they don't think a university should be standing for. And their opinions are not unreasonable. Universities must stand for the openness of opinion, and whatever that is, however uncomfortable it is. We tolerate the 99 madcaps at university because one may actually be making sense. And that's what is good about being at a university. It's the university's duty to continually prick the conscience of its society. And I'm afraid that's, as far as I could see, and I don't have the full spectrum of the picture, but as far as I could see, that's what these students were doing. They were simply raising an issue that they thought was sufficiently important to prick the conscience of the community. And I can't believe that students are being punished for that.
Yeah, it is quite shocking indeed. Thank you so much for your time, Prof. Really appreciate it.